don't think it can happen to you.
Violent collision kills 2 people outside Tampa International Airport.
An alleged road rage attack rips 3 families apart. Tonight, we're learning about the boys who were killed.
Prosecutors are going to pursue charges against people who are texting while driving.
That's right. This DUI and murder suspect could get life in prison if convicted.
You don't think it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass.
New at 10, a hit and run caught on video, and now a teenager and his family are looking for the driver who took off.
He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
All right, let's get right to it. It has been 30 days. 30 days to the day since I had my last podcast show. I have been so busy. Doing other things. Things at my job, things around the house. I was just exhausted, and unfortunately, I missed out on probably 5 to 6, maybe 7 good shows, and that is my fault. I have been having people contact me and ask me, when are you going to do another show? It has been a while, and I reached out and said it'll be soon, and I can't believe I look back at the calendar, and it has been 30 days. 30 days as of today. Wow. A lot has been done in 30 days as far as DUIs, hit and runs. A lot of deaths have been on the road. And it doesn't seem to get any easier as I listen and I watch the news and I count them day in and day out. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and, of course, on Facebook, DistractedDB. You can get your shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just use the keyword DistractedDB. A very interesting show today. And yes, I know it's been 30 days since we have had a show, but we will still get one of these in for you.
Coming up, we're going to have the top story from the previous show.
And, of course, we will have the top story from the previous show. And, again, it has been 30 days. It is hard to believe, but it has been 30 days. Wow. I am just mortified by that because I like to have at least 1 to 2 shows a week. So 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 8 shows now I haven't done. So I'm 8 shows behind. Somewhere along the way, I'm going to have to double, triple up on some shows. And I know that I have several followers that have been asking for, when am I going to do a show? Well, I apologize to you because I know you guys are interested in what I have to say about distracted driving. You get the stories that I send out from different states. Not everyone follows all the states. I kind of follow a lot of them. Several different things here. Down in Florida, we have something going on. A couple other states, we got something going on. And in Florida, actually, Florida is doing something good. And I got a story from WPLG Local 10 News. If every state would follow Florida's example on this, it would cut down wrong way drivers dramatically. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But before we get into any of our shows, I feel it is time to get into the...
And now it's time for the top story from the previous show.
All right, it's time for the top story from the previous show, and it comes out of Arizona, where a young lady who was on her way to San Diego, and I think she ended up with a flat tire, or she had car trouble along the side of the road somewhere near San Diego, and the unfortunate thing happened. You know, she was hit by a distracted driver. And here's a story from 12 News Arizona, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
Good evening. Tonight's big story. A quick trip to San Diego takes a deadly turn when a suspected drunk driver hits and kills a young woman from Arizona, taking off before police arrive.
Team 12's Adriana Loya spoke to exclusively with the victim's family, who, amid their grief, are pleading for the person responsible to come forward.
It was supposed to be a fun weekend for Vanessa Urbina.
She sounded so happy.
But instead, her MLK holiday getaway to California ending in tragedy.
It's totally unfair. She was one of the nicest people ever.
The 22-year-old killed Sunday morning in San Diego. A man police allege was driving under the influence, striking her and her 24-year-old boyfriend. San Diego police say the couple was standing on a sidewalk next to their SUV when 22-year-old Nestor Hernandez drove into them. Vanessa died on impact. Her boyfriend was pinned under the suspect's truck. He was taken to a hospital where he remains tonight.
She's older than me, but she's like smaller than me, so I call her my baby sister.
Eduardo Urbina lost for words. Vanessa was his only sibling.
Her soul spoke to you like it was a nice, kind soul.
Use this one and I use
He says
this one,
Vanessa
okay?
was an amazing aunt to his 3-year-old daughter.
Tap it.
This video, his favorite of the pair.
That's her little mini-me. She loved her. She treated her like if that was her child.
Vanessa was a full-time student at Mesa Community College, studying to be a nurse. She hoped to soon marry her boyfriend of 6 years.
There was never a dull moment around my sister ever. She always had you laughing in some kind of way. And just a bright person who always made your day better.
Eduardo says the couple had gotten a flat tire and were waiting for an Uber. That's why they were standing on the sidewalk that fateful night. The suspect was arraigned Wednesday on one count of gross vehicular manslaughter that also injured another victim. As the family fundraises to bring Vanessa to her Maricopa home, they hope this tragedy will serve as a reminder for others.
It's not worth it. It's not worth to go out, drink and drive, and damage everybody else's life just for one night of fun. It's not worth it.
Adriana Loya, 12 News.
That was the top story from the previous show.
All right, that's the top story from the previous show. And again, that came from 12 News out there in Arizona. And I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. All right, let's get into a story here real quickly where how a wrong-way driver who ended up killing someone was sentenced to 32 years in prison. But because of a plea deal, she's only going to spend a handful of that time in jail, according to the authorities. Now, I have a problem with this, but I want you to hear the story first. And it comes from WHAS 11 News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
A Louisville woman has been sentenced to 32 years in prison after a deadly wrong-way crash in 2021. But a plea deal will allow her to serve only a handful of those years. That crash killed both parents and injured their 2 children. Now, Taylor, you are joining us. You were with them in the courtroom this morning for that deal. What did you see?
Well, Brooke, the court worked with the Hinkle family on a deal for Faith Turner. In June of 2021, Turner admitted to driving intoxicated, speeding, and going the wrong way on 64 in downtown Louisville. Alan and Rochelle Hinkle were killed and 2 kids were injured. The judge gave Turner a 32-year sentence, so it's 12 years at 85% parole eligibility for her manslaughter convictions and 20 years at 20% for other charges and credit for time served. The judge read through several victim impact statements as well as letters sent in on behalf of Turner And today, the judge admitted it was hard to say comforting words since this was a devastating circumstance that has lifelong impacts for both families. Today, the assistant Commonwealth attorney representing the family explained why they came up with that deal.
They've shown a lot of grace, as the judge said, and they expressed that they really wanted her to have the opportunity for rehabilitation, and that's kind of why we crafted the deal in the way that we did.
Turner was taken into custody today, and the judge says Turner will also be given credit for the time she has been in custody. In studio, Taylor Woods, WHAS 11.
All right, and I want to thank WHAS 11 News for allowing me to use the sound. 12 years out of that, you were sentenced 32 and you get 12 years at the most. You're going to have 12 years? Are you kidding me? The parents that died in a car crash, do they get 12 years and come back to life? No, they don't. There's an issue with that I got here, and I have repeatedly on all my podcasts have asked for judges to do the right thing. Now, I get it. The victims, they decided, the surviving victims, they decided, yes, let's try to get this person rehabilitated. It's not going to do any good for them or anybody with them sitting behind a jail. They might have a guilty conscience of, like, this really is maybe too much of a penalty. I don't know. But a plea deal was struck, and is that what we want to have? People that end up doing something wrong like this, wrong way driver, speeding, obviously drunk, probably out of her freaking mind, she ends up going and killing somebody and ends up with 12 years. I have a hard time with that. At least make it 20, 25 years, because you know, this is, you're going down a slippery slope where it's going to, well, hey, this person got that, set the precedence for this person. Well, wait a minute. What about that person over here that does even worse? You know what? Slap them on the hand and move them on their way. I feel like if you're going to do that, if you feel that you want to have a reduced sentence like that, I would like to offer up a story, and I'll probably do it in my next podcast show. You know what? Matter of fact, I'm going to do it right now, real quick. I know for a fact, when I was stationed overseas and I was in Japan, if you are a driver in Japan, you are considered a professional driver. That's everybody across the board. Whether you're 18, 19 years old or 80 or 90 years old, you're considered a professional driver. And that's how they look at you. So, say for example, you are a male or female and you're like 26 years old. And say you kill either a man or a woman, male or female, I guess that's the same thing. Say they are in a business and say they're 32. The person, you, killed that young man or that woman who was 32. You would have to take and pay restitution for the rest of your life to that family. If they were married, it would go to the wife or to the husband who was remaining in the family. You would have to pay them what they would have gotten through all the years of their promotions within their job until they would have retired. So if you hit them at 32 and then you end up having to pay them until, say, they're 62, so you're going to pay 30 years of restitution to that family. If we did something like that, okay, then I'll give you the 12 years. Then you're going to pay that family something there. How about that? Let's look at that. That, I think, is an acceptable, and I think it is truly something that we can use as a benchmark. Am I right? Am I wrong? Not really sure. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. When we come back, a father and a son speak out after someone killed their wife and their mom. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam! Ran right into the side of the saloon.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and, of course, on Facebook, DistractedDB. You can get not only this show, but all my past archive shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. And thinking about that last story, it just rips my heart apart. And here's another story that kind of rips my heart apart, where when somebody going the wrong way ends up killing somebody, and somebody within that family has to speak out about it. It is so disheartening. And this story comes from 13 ABC News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
131 near downtown's been a problem for years. 13 on your side's Micah Cho has details on why they want to see something done to prevent another accident like this.
The loss is tremendous, and Willow's never coming home again. And so don't let that happen to you.
Willow Yan's father, Paul, and her brother, Gage, are speaking out on the impacts drinking and driving has had on their family. Willow, a 21-year-old student at Kendall College, was killed by a wrong-way driver on US 131 near 28th Street in March of 2022. Ashley Guadalupe Rodriguez Hernandez, the driver of the car that hit Willow, was just sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Her blood alcohol content was 0.114%, the legal limit, 0.08%.
Yeah, I told the judge when we were in court that, be prepared, there's more coming, because this accident keeps happening over and over again.
Now, Paul and Gage want to see more done to prevent wrong-way drivers from entering Michigan highways.
It's just something's got to be done to start trying to eliminate it. Maybe the first try isn't going to do it. Maybe the second try won't, but you have to keep trying. And so lights, strobe lights, spikes, something on those off ramps. So when cars are going the wrong way, that they are stopped there. And ultimately, that's what we'd like to see.
That was Micah Cho reporting tonight.
All right, and again, that story came from 13 ABC News, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. It is kind of an interesting thing, an interesting statement, what he said, that he wants something done when it comes to those off-ramps. I have preached, put in the, at the airports where you try to exit on the way where you're supposed to come in, and those things will come up and puncture your tires. I don't know exactly what they're called, but you get the idea what I'm talking about. Obviously, they'll flatten your tires if you go the wrong way. That would be a starter. That would be the main starter. Will it cost you some money? Yeah, but can you put a dollar sign on life? I don't think you can. And irregardless of what anybody says, oh, this is not right, you can't do that. Well, tell that to the person that was killed by a wrong way driver who was drunk or stoned and not knowing where they were going. That's what you got to look at. That is what you have to look at. What is the cost of a life? If it was your family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your niece, or nephew that was killed in a wrong way driver, and it should have and been preventable, what would you do? How outraged would you be? Because these people was kind of calm and cool about it, but deep down inside, I can guarantee you they were probably raising hell. Like, how in that can this even happen? And I think you don't know what I'm trying to say. But some way along the way, it has got to happen where it comes back to reality. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. When I come back, well, Florida's doing something about these wrong way drivers. We'll get with that and much more when we come back. You're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com. We'll be back right after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about going for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Hey, there's no way you can hide it. If you drive drunk, they're gonna find you. So stop kidding yourself.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Sir, have you been drinking this evening? Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
They will catch you and arrest you. Drive sober or get pulled over.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course now this podcast show. You can follow me on Facebook at DistractedDB, and you can get me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, and of course you want to listen to any of my past shows for the last 9 years, you can go to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just use the keyword DistractedDB, and my lovely logo, along with my lovely face, will pop up. And there you are. Go ahead and listen to that. Okay, here's the story that I'm getting out of Florida from WPLG Local 10 News. And I appreciate them for doing this, allowing me to use the sound. They're actually doing something out there in Florida. Maybe not on all the off-ramps right now, but it's a start. I can tell you now, it's a start. They're going with 11 off-ramps first. This is a good thing. This is something that I have preached about and talked about before. And maybe somebody in Florida heard me and they said, hey, this is a great idea. I can't say that for sure, but I'm going to go with that in my mind. That way I feel good. All right, here's the thing. In Florida, they're going to start putting sensors, installing sensors to prevent wrong way crashes. Again, here's a story from WPLG, from WPLG Local 10, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound.
Transportation is beginning construction of new wrong-way detection systems at 11 off-ramps throughout Miami-Dade County in hopes of preventing some of these crashes.
So as soon as a vehicle starts approaching, there's a detector, starts to flash the LED lights, and it's supposed to alert the driver, hey, you're going the wrong way, time to autocorrect.
The systems also allow FDOT to alert Highway Patrol and put messages on digital display boards warning others on the roadway that a wrong-way driver is nearby. So according to FDOT, those systems, when they go off, 80% of the time, they alone will cause a driver to turn around. Basically, what you're going to see is those wrong-way signs you're used to seeing on the off-ramps. They're going to be surrounded by LED lights that flash automatically as soon as a driver goes by. Construction begins next week.
Okay, I want to thank WPLG 10 News for that. I think I cut off that audio just a little bit too fast there. Construction apparently seems to be beginning next week. And again, I got this story a couple days ago, so I'm going to guess that they've already probably started their construction. But 11 off-ramps. Now here, I would like to see a video of what they're putting together because irregardless of what people think, wrong-way drivers, when they're drunk, they're just got one thing in their mind, going. And I don't know if maybe a bunch of lights or something will stop them like that. But I'm thinking if you have those flip-up things that will pop your tires, the little spikes that are facing in the opposite direction, when you go over them, they will go ahead and pop your tires. That's the thing I'm looking for. You pop their 4 tires, they ain't going very far, very fast. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that. You can also let me know on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter is at DistractedDBTV, and of course Facebook is DistractedDB. You can IM me, DM me, or whatever you need to do to get in touch with me. Matter of fact, I think I need to contact somebody down in Florida and see what I can do to get more clarification on this, because I'm thinking deep down inside, this hopefully it's a start. It's good. We're at least going in the right direction. Because there's nothing worse than you being paralyzed going down the road and you see oncoming cars coming your way. And you're traveling 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Some people out here in California, my gosh, they're traveling 80, 90 miles an hour. And it's like I'm standing still. I'm in a slow lane. They're passing me like I'm standing still. I'm like, my gosh, if you ever crash, your debris will be scattered over at least half a mile, if not more. That's how fast they're going. And by the way, out here in California for the last couple of weeks, I can't believe how much rain we've had, and yet people still think the roads are dry. And they'll speed in and out of traffic, cutting in, almost clipping somebody's bumper just to bypass to get around them. If you end up in a crash at that rate of speed, in that kind of weather, there is definitely going to be some deaths along the way. Just heads up on that here in California. Since today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, we're expecting some more rain. Can you imagine that? All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I will try not to be 30 days from another show. I will try to pick it up a little bit more. Hopefully I can knock out 2 or 3 shows a week, get me back on track. Again, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com. Remember, I don't want to die today, do you? And most importantly, I do not want to be a wrong-way driver. Until next show, please be safe.